My friends, stop what you are doing right now and listen with every fiber of your being. What I am about to share with you is not mere motivation. It is not inspiration designed to make you feel good for a moment before you return to your ordinary life. This is the blueprint for commanding reality itself through the power of your mind. I have spent decades studying the most successful individuals of our time, from Andrew Carnegie to Thomas Edison, from Henry Ford to Charles Schwab, and I discovered something that will shake you to your very core. The difference between those who bend the world to their will and those who are bent by it is not talent, not luck, not even opportunity. It is how they think. More precisely, it is how they believe and act upon that belief. You see, I once sat exactly where you are sitting now, uncertain, perhaps struggling, wondering if there was some secret formula that separated the extraordinary from the ordinary. I had interviewed over 500 of the most successful people in America, searching for this answer, and what I found was so simple yet so profound that it changed not only my understanding of success, but the very trajectory of human potential itself. Every single person who achieved greatness mastered one fundamental principle. They acted as if their success was already guaranteed before the world gave them any proof. They didn't wait for circumstances to change. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for confidence to arrive. They acted with absolute certainty that what they desired was already theirs, and the world had no choice but to conform to their unwavering belief. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to harness this same power, how to program your subconscious mind to reject anything that contradicts your vision, how to walk, talk, and think like the person you are determined to become, and most importantly, how to make the impossible submit to your will through the spiritual laws that govern all achievement. But I must warn you, this is not for the weak-minded. This requires you to abandon every excuse, every hesitation, every voice that whispers you are not worthy of greatness. Are you ready to discover the mental ritual that commands reality itself? Part 1. The hidden power behind your thoughts. Let me begin with a truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. If you do not yet possess what you desire, it is because you do not yet believe that you deserve it. The world is not your enemy, my friend. It is your mirror. It reflects not your potential, but your dominant belief about yourself. If you carry doubt, hesitation, or fear in your mind, the world will return to you conditions shaped by those very states of consciousness. But if you fill your mind with belief, decision, and unwavering purpose, then you will command the world to obey. You are not the victim of circumstance. You are the architect of it. But your tools are invisible. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your inner dialogue. During my years of research, I discovered what I call the fundamental law of mental chemistry. A person becomes what they believe most deeply about themselves, for belief is thought fused with emotion and decision. When dominating thoughts are mixed with feeling and repeated with conviction, they descend into the subconscious mind, and from there they are transformed into physical reality. This is not philosophy, my friends. This is law. Consider Henry Ford, a man not trained in engineering, not certified by academia, not backed by powerful investors. He conceived the idea of the V8 engine and demanded it be built. His own engineers told him it was impossible. He told them, build it anyway. For months they returned with failure, and he said again, produce it. Why? Because Ford had discovered the secret of acting as if. He saw the engine first in his mind. He believed in its existence without apology. He acted as if it had already been created, and the world obeyed his conviction. The power of acting as if is not pretending, my friends. It is preparation. It is spiritual law in motion. When you move as the person who already possesses your goal, you train your subconscious to reject all that contradicts it. You are not deceiving yourself. You are programming yourself. Here is your first principle. What you consistently believe and act upon with feeling and definiteness must externalize in the world of form. The world does not resist your belief. It responds to it. It molds itself to your inner commands. You are not waiting for conditions to change. Conditions are waiting for you to believe. Now repeat after me with conviction. I am the master of my belief. What I believe with emotion and act upon with decision becomes real. Say it aloud, not once, but every morning, every night, until your mind no longer questions, until your speech and your posture and your actions all declare it without hesitation. Speak it until the doubt is gone. Speak it until you become what you speak. The tongue is the steering wheel of the subconscious, and belief is the engine. If you hesitate, the world hesitates. If you believe with certainty, it obeys with precision. Part 2. The faith that commands circumstances. Now we come to the power that separates the extraordinary from the ordinary, faith. But understand this clearly. Faith is not a passive thing. It is not a whisper in the dark or a timid hope. Faith is the mind's iron declaration that what I see within me shall become what surrounds me. Faith is power. It is fire. It is the force that drives individuals to move mountains, not because they have proof it can be done, but because they have decided it must be done. In Think and Grow Rich, I taught that faith is a state of mind which may be induced through autosuggestion. This is the vital key that most people miss. Faith is not given to you. You manufacture it by what you speak, what you feel, and what you repeat with unwavering conviction. Faith is the master chemistry of the mind. It is the elixir that gives life to thought. Without it, your goals are lifeless wishes. With it, your thoughts become spiritual commands that penetrate all resistance. Let me make this absolutely clear. You do not wait for faith to appear. You do not ask the world to give you evidence before you believe. That is not faith. That is indecision masquerading as logic. You decide to believe. You speak it, act upon it, live it, and the feeling will follow. And once the feeling comes, it must be held, intensified, and directed toward your definite chief aim. This is how individuals build empires from nothing. When I studied Thomas Edison, I discovered a man who understood this principle completely. Edison did not discover the electric light because he was the most educated. He was not the wealthiest. He did not possess a blueprint handed to him by fate. He possessed one thing, and it was enough. A burning desire and an absolute belief that the light existed and must be brought forth. For 10,000 attempts, he met with what others called failure. Yet he never accepted defeat. Do you understand the gravity of this? 10,000 trials, 10,000 obstacles, and never once did Edison accept the word impossible. He said, "I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that will not work." And with each so-called failure, his belief only deepened. He acted as if the light was already his, and so his mind found a way to make it real. This is not luck, my friends. This is not fate. This is spiritual law in motion. You may not be an inventor, but the principle is identical. If you hold your aim with the same intensity that Edison held his, and you believe in its arrival before the world sees it, the world will have no choice but to shape itself around your vision. Here is your second principle. Faith is belief fused with emotion and fixed upon a definite chief aim. It is built by repetition. It is strengthened by decision, and it is proven by the fruits it produces. Repeat this declaration with me now. I walk in faith, speak in faith, act in faith. The invisible shall become visible because I have decided it must. But understand this warning. Faith must be guarded. It is fragile in the beginning. It must be protected from the criticisms of the faithless, the sarcasm of the mediocre, the doubts of the drifting. You must not share your vision with those who are blind to it. Walk alone if you must, but walk in belief. Speak your affirmations in private if the world mocks them, but speak them, feel them. Build your castle in thought and hold it there until stone begins to appear in the material world. Part 3. Nothing is impossible to the mind that believes. Here we arrive at the cornerstone of all achievement. There is no such thing as impossible to the mind that believes without reservation. Impossibility is not a condition of the world, my friends. It is a confession of the person who has given up dominion over their own thoughts. When someone says it cannot be done, what they truly mean is, I do not believe I can do it, and because belief is the gatekeeper to action, that person never begins, never builds, never breaks through. The world is not shaped by real limits. It is shaped by the limits that people accept. And these are not laws. They are lies inherited from the failures of others who pass their doubts forward as if they were truth. But I say to you, the mind of an individual, when fixed upon a definite object and backed by faith, must bring forth that which it conceives. For there is no idea that cannot be manifested. There are only people who doubt it. Let me share with you the remarkable power of your subconscious mind. It has no sense of humor. It does not mock you when you speak of greatness. It does not question whether your goals are too large. It does not evaluate logic. It simply accepts what you give it. If you feed it repetition backed by emotion, it obeys. Whether that repetition is belief or fear, courage or doubt, wealth or poverty, it accepts and begins to create accordingly. Your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. If you plant thorns of doubt, fear, and limitation, those shall take root and overrun the garden. But if you plant seeds of strength, purpose, belief, and clarity, and water them daily with conviction, then abundance shall rise. The field does not argue. It does not discriminate. It obeys. Your responsibility is not to beg the soil to grow. Your responsibility is to plant deliberately and weed out the seeds of confusion. Here is your third principle. The subconscious responds to commands spoken aloud, repeated daily, and backed with definite emotion. This is why I insist upon writing your definite chief aim and reading it twice daily. It is not ritual for ritual's sake. It is a programming instruction to your inner world. Now let me address the thieves of this power. They do not wear masks. They do not break into your home. They break into your thoughts. I call them the 6 ghosts of fear: the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. Of these, the 2 most dangerous to the person pursuing belief are the fear of criticism and the fear of poverty. The first paralyzes your expression. It causes you to hesitate before speaking your truth. The second imprisons your imagination. It causes you to believe you must stay small to survive. But understand this clearly. If you entertain these fears even for a moment, you interrupt the current of faith. You cast doubt into the garden of your mind. You must watch your thoughts as a soldier watches the gate. You must speak only that which reinforces your power. For the subconscious listens always. It hears your casual words. It hears your complaints. And whatever you repeat, it accepts. So speak with intention. Declare the impossible as inevitable. Do not say I hope. Do not say I wish. Say I am. Say it is done. Say this is mine. And act in accordance. Dress as if. Move as if. Spend your time as if. Believe as if. Not because the evidence is there, but because you are planting the evidence. Repeat this command with absolute conviction. Nothing is impossible to me, for I believe without retreat, and I act without fear. Part 4. The mental ritual that changes reality. Now we come to the practical application of these principles. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are prepared to receive, and preparation does not begin in your environment. It begins in your thoughts. The person who waits for circumstances to change before they change their behavior will always be waiting. But the person who changes themselves first, who acts as if the future has already arrived, commands conditions to obey their example. This is the principle. Act as if it were already done, and it shall be. You must conduct yourself in thought, speech, and movement, like the person who already possesses the result. This is not deception. This is creation. Every individual who ever achieved greatness walked before the world noticed them, thinking, believing, speaking as if their name was already carved into history. It was not the world that crowned them. It was their conviction that demanded the crown. The mind is a creature of habit, and the subconscious mind, being without will of its own, follows the habits you assign to it. If you act as the struggling person, it will deliver you struggle. If you act as the victim, it will create more circumstances to support that identity. But if you act as the leader, the achiever, the master of your fate, then your subconscious will begin to attract the ideas, the people, and the circumstances that match that image. Here is your daily mental ritual. First, write your definite chief aim as if it is already complete. Do not say, I hope to become. Say, I am. Do not write, I wish to have. Write, I now possess. Make your words bold, definite, unshakable. Second, take that statement and read it aloud twice each day. Once in the morning, once in the evening. Read it with emotion. Read it with vision. Read it until you believe it, and then read it more. Third, you must see yourself already in possession of the result. That vision must live in your imagination not once, not when you feel inspired, but as a daily mental ritual. This is the act of training your subconscious to accept a new identity. Your old self, the one filled with doubt and delay, must be evicted, and your new self, the one who commands the impossible, must be invited in with every repetition of belief. Now understand, this ritual is not merely about reading words, it is about becoming the person described in those words. You must walk into your day as that person. You must speak to others with their posture. You must carry their tone, their rhythm, their spirit. When you speak of your aim, do so as if you are unveiling it, not requesting permission for it to exist. Act as if the ink on your destiny has already dried. Let me give you a living example from my research. Andrew Carnegie did not build his steel empire by force. He built it by belief. He did not wait for others to prove themselves before treating them as leaders. He treated every associate as if they were already great individuals, and by doing so, they rose to match the image he held of them. This is the silent law. When you act as if something is true long enough, it must become true. Here is your fourth principle. Conduct yourself in thought, speech, and action as if you already possess the result you seek. Say this with finality. I conduct myself as the person who has already achieved my definite chief aim. Do not whisper it. Own it, for what you declare repeatedly becomes law in the land of the subconscious. And once that law is written, the machinery of your mind begins to move in its service. Ideas emerge, energy increases, opportunities appear. Why? Because you have changed your vibration of identity. Let me be absolutely clear. This transformation does not require the approval of others. You do not need applause to act as if you are powerful. You do not need titles to behave with authority. You do not need wealth to speak like a builder of fortunes. These things come after the behavior, not before. Your actions must lead, your emotions must follow, and the world must then respond. Part 5. What the subconscious obeys. There is but one thing over which you have absolute control, and that is your own mind. This truth is the cornerstone of all achievement. You may not control others. You may not control the economy or the decisions of other people, but you control your thoughts. And by mastering that internal dominion, you come to influence all that is external. Your subconscious mind is the silent builder of your circumstances. It is the unseen hand shaping your conditions, but it is not creative on its own. It must be directed. It does not originate thought. It receives it. It does not distinguish between truth and falsehood, wealth or poverty, victory or defeat. It acts upon whatever you impress upon it through repetition and emotional intensity. What you plant, it must grow. The subconscious responds best to commands spoken aloud, repeated daily, and backed with definite emotion. But there is another force, one more powerful than the isolated mind alone. It is what I call the mastermind. When two or more minds are brought together in harmony, fixed upon a common objective, a third mind, a greater mind, is formed. This is not philosophy. This is principle. The minds of great individuals are made greater through association with other minds that share their belief, their clarity, their burning desire. Let me tell you about Charles Schwab, one of the brightest examples of applied belief through the mastermind principle. He was not born wealthy. He did not inherit power, but he carried within him a belief that he could rise. He aligned himself with Andrew Carnegie, who recognized not merely Schwab's talent, but his spirit, his definiteness. Schwab acted and believed as if he already possessed the capacity to lead, and soon he did. Carnegie placed him in charge of the greatest steel operation in the nation, not because of his years of experience, not because of credentials, but because he had the spirit of command forged in belief. Schwab's mind joined with Carnegie's produced plans, strategies, and ideas neither could have conceived alone. The power of the mastermind was the furnace, and faith was the fuel. Here is your fifth principle. Your subconscious mind will mirror the dominant belief of those you associate with most often. If you keep company with doubters, their doubt will poison your subconscious. If you walk with critics, their negativity will cloud your inner vision. But if you form a mastermind alliance with those who believe, those who affirm, those who pursue with purpose, then your belief will multiply. You must therefore choose your influences as a king chooses his counsel. Let no person into your inner circle who does not support your vision. Let no conversation enter your ears that weakens your conviction. Repeat this affirmation with power. My subconscious receives only commands of power, purpose, and triumph. It obeys my dominant desire. Say it in the morning. Say it in the evening. Say it when doubt knocks. Your subconscious listens. It always listens. and the voice it hears the most, it obeys the fastest. If you do not yet have a mastermind alliance, form one immediately. Find one person who believes as you do. Meet regularly. Speak only of victory. Review your aims. Share your affirmations. Eliminate idle speech, weak talk, and fear-driven thoughts. And if you cannot find such individuals, then walk with the minds of those who left their thoughts in books. Read the words of great builders, bold leaders, visionaries. Let their ideas become your silent counsel until you stand strong enough to gather the living around you. You are never alone if you walk with powerful thought. Remember this law: the subconscious mind does not create, it responds. And when multiple minds are fixed on a common definite aim, they generate a current of belief too strong for any barrier to resist. Part 6. The Destroyer of Doubt. Indecision is the seedbed of failure. It is the breeding ground of fear, hesitation, and drift. Where there is no decision, there is no direction. And where there is no direction, there can be no victory. A person who cannot decide will forever bow to the person who can, for life favors the bold, not the reckless, but the definite. And decision is the first act of the definite individual. Doubt has no power until you feed it. And the food it thrives upon is indecision. The moment you delay, you have already begun to retreat. You may dress your delay in careful language. Call it prudence, wisdom, caution. But the subconscious knows. It feels your hesitation and mirrors it. The longer you stall, the deeper the roots of fear grow. Faith cannot operate in a house divided. You cannot claim to believe in your purpose while postponing your commitment to it. The person who says, "I am waiting for a sign," will never act. The person who says, "I must think about it," is already being ruled by fear. Decision is not born of perfect clarity. It is born of inner authority. You must say, "This is my path," and walk it even while the road ahead is not yet visible. Let me show you the cost of indecision. Every time you hesitate, you train your mind to distrust itself. The subconscious, being always obedient, watches your delay and begins to believe you are not serious. It withdraws its energy. It ceases to build. The ideas stop flowing. The will begins to weaken. And soon the window of opportunity that once stood open has closed, not by fate, but by your own indecision. Contrast this with the power of decision. When you decide, your energy returns, your mind sharpens, the world shifts. You begin to notice the tools, the allies, the chances you missed while doubting. Life rewards the person who has made up their mind, for nature herself does not permit waste, and no greater waste exists than a mind divided against itself. Consider Abraham Lincoln, a man of deep inner struggle, uncertainty, and criticism. In his youth, he knew the pain of ridicule, the sting of failure, the burden of loneliness. But amidst all this, he made a quiet decision. He would leave a mark upon the world. That decision, once made, governed his every step. He was not perfect. He did not always see the way clearly, but he had decided, and that decision gave birth to one of the greatest destinies in history. It was not Lincoln's eloquence alone that gave him power. It was his moral conviction, his inner decision that right must be done and that he would bear the weight of doing it. When others doubted, he remained fixed. When the Union trembled, he stood steady. Decision makes a person immovable, not because the winds do not blow, but because they are rooted in belief. Here is your sixth principle. Decision burns bridges. It removes retreat. The person who succeeds does so because they have eliminated the possibility of turning back. When the mind knows there is no escape, it summons strength previously unknown. Let this be your declaration. I decide. I act. I believe. I do not waver. Speak it when you feel unsure. Speak it when fear whispers. Speak it until your heart believes it and your steps embody it. There is a power in the person who has made up their mind, and that power calls forth everything required to fulfill the decision. The greatest enemy of progress is not failure, it is doubt. Failure teaches, failure refines, but doubt paralyzes. It leaves you cold and motionless, staring at the door but never turning the handle. You must choose now. Will you be a person of waiting or a person of movement? Will you live according to your vision or according to your fears? When you look upon your definite chief aim, do not entertain questions. Do not wonder if you are worthy. You are. Do not ask if it is possible. It is. The only question that matters is, will you decide to pursue it with everything you have? Write your decision. Speak it. Commit to it in action. Move now, not tomorrow, not when the fear fades. Move while the fear trembles in your shadow. For the moment you move with conviction, you will feel a strength you forgot you had. You will feel alive again, and the world will see it. They will see a person who has made up their mind. They will sense the fire behind your eyes, the certainty in your step, the resonance in your voice, and they will follow. For people follow clarity. They follow decisiveness. They follow those who know where they are going. Part 7. What stops the faithful? Fear is not real. It is not substance. It is not solid. It is mist, vapor, smoke of the mind. But it becomes a wall to the person who believes it, and it becomes a prison to the person who obeys it. Fear has no power unless you grant it with your attention, your imagination, your indecision. And yet fear has kept more people poor, small, and silent than poverty, failure, or death ever could. I tell you plainly, fear is the greatest obstacle to achievement. It causes drifting. It clouds clarity. It poisons vision. In my study of thousands of individuals, both those who failed and those who succeeded, the difference was always this. The successful person learned to think and act in spite of fear, while the unsuccessful person waited for fear to vanish before they moved. And fear does not vanish, my friends. It must be defied. There are 6 ghosts of fear, and if you do not name them, they shall live in you without your knowledge. First, the fear of poverty. Second, the fear of criticism. Third, the fear of ill health. Fourth, the fear of loss of love. Fifth, the fear of old age. Sixth, the fear of death. These 6, when left unchallenged, rule over people like unseen masters. But when exposed, when named, when rejected, they dissolve. Let us speak first of the fear of criticism, for it is the most subtle and most deadly to ambition. It causes people to lower their voices, to soften their declarations, to delay their aims. A person who fears what others will say can never fully speak their vision. They walk in the shadows of other people's opinions. I say to you, you must not fear to be misunderstood. You must not fear to be doubted. You must not fear to be alone in your vision. Every great leader, every builder, every innovator walked through the valley of criticism before reaching the mountain of success. The world does not cheer the person at the start. It doubts them, it mocks them, it resists them. But if they persist, the world will one day stand in awe of what they have built. Now let us turn to the fear of poverty, the most common and the most crippling. This fear paralyzes initiative. It whispers, "What if you fail?" It tells the person to play it safe, to wait, to preserve instead of pursue. But wealth does not come to the cautious. It comes to the bold. The person who fears poverty shall always serve the person who fears nothing, for faith and fear do not dwell in the same house. Look to the example of John D. Rockefeller. He was not born into riches. He was born into hardship, uncertainty, and struggle. But he decided early that he would master his world. He was called reckless, dangerous, mad. He invested when others retreated. He bought when others sold. He moved forward when others froze. He did not fear loss because he believed in gain. And the world, once confused by his conviction, came to admire it. Here is your 7th principle. Action is the fire that burns fear away. You must train yourself to move in the face of fear. You must feel it rise and act anyway. You must hear its voice and speak louder. Fear is not your master unless you kneel to it. But when you stand, when you move, when you refuse to bow, fear has no choice but to flee. Let us make this declaration together. I do not shrink, I do not stall. I am immune to fear, for I am acting under a definite chief aim. Say it with your chest lifted. Say it while your hands tremble. Say it until they no longer do. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to advance while afraid. You must also be ruthless with the voices you permit into your life. Fear is contagious. It spreads from person to person like disease. If you walk with cowards, you will begin to speak their language. But if you surround yourself with the brave, with the builders, with those who believe, then fear will have no air in which to breathe. There will come moments, nights, mornings, long hours, when fear will attempt to return. It will whisper of failure, shame, or rejection. In those moments, you must respond not with silence, but with affirmation. Speak aloud your aim. Recall your victories. Act with small steps if you must, but act. Do not sit still, for fear thrives in stillness, but it flees from motion. You must now decide who rules your house, the voice of fear or the voice of faith. You cannot serve both. One must be exiled. One must be dethroned. And this is done not once, but daily. Every day is a battlefield, every thought a weapon. When fear returns, remind it, I have chosen to walk in faith. I have chosen to move forward. I have chosen to live by purpose, not by panic. You are not alone in this. Every person who ever triumphed stood in your place. They all felt the cold breath of fear, but they walked anyway. They believed anyway. And by doing so, they became the giants of their time. You are not different. You are not smaller. You are simply waiting for your own command. Give it now. Declare, I walk in power. I walk in clarity. I walk through fear and leave it behind me. Part 8. Speak and walk as the person you demand to become. Your thoughts are commands. Your words are blueprints. Your movements are decrees. Every act of speech, posture, and action sends a signal not only to the world but to your own subconscious, affirming who you are becoming. And that identity, once planted, must bear fruit. The world does not respond to what you want. It responds to who you are being. So I ask you now, who are you commanding yourself to become? If you still speak as the person who doubts, the person who delays, the person who waits for permission, then no matter what goals you write, your life will mirror that identity. But if you now speak with certainty, walk with authority, and carry the bearing of one who already possesses the outcome, then life begins to conform to the shape of your belief. Identity is not discovered, my friends. It is declared and repeated into existence. Every morning you rise, you are given the opportunity to assume the role, not the role of who you were yesterday, but the role of who you are deciding to be. You must now speak only the language of the person who has achieved. You must move like them, think like them, rise like them, and work like them. The inner becomes the outer. The imagined becomes the manifested. The assumed becomes the actual. There is a law for this. I call it cosmic habit force. It is the unseen power that takes repeated thoughts and actions and molds them into habits, into destiny. The person who acts as if they are powerful, even when they are uncertain, begins to become powerful, not because they fake strength, but because they practice it into permanence. This law does not discriminate. It works for weakness or for strength. Your rituals decide which. This is why you must no longer wait for circumstances to confirm your identity. You must lead them. Speak not as a person who is trying. Speak as a person who has arrived. Do not say, I will become. Say, I am. Do not ask for permission. Give yourself the order, for your subconscious does not question, it obeys. And when you begin to speak, walk, and move as your future self, your mind cannot distinguish the difference, so it builds accordingly. Let me show you an example of this principle in action. Woodrow Wilson, a man once hidden in the shadows of academia, unknown to the world stage, but within him burned a vision, not of who he was, but of who he must become. He began to act, to speak, and to lead as though he were destined for the highest office in the land. And though he began in obscurity, his identity governed his journey. He became president not because he was chosen, but because he chose himself first. This is your great lesson. The world believes in the person who first believes in themselves. When you carry yourself with the gravity of purpose, the steadiness of decision, and the bearing of certainty, others will begin to adjust to your presence. Doors will open, eyes will turn, opportunities will appear. But these are not causes, they are effects. The cause is always identity. The cause is always belief acted upon. So I say to you now, write your identity as you would write your chief aim. Write the traits, the conduct, the spirit of the person you are becoming. Describe their speech, their courage, their self-control, their decisiveness, and begin without delay to embody them today, in small steps, in large declarations, in silent practices. Let that new version of you become so familiar that the old self fades into history. Here is your eighth and final principle. I am what I have decided to become. I act as if nothing is impossible, because nothing is when I believe. Say it until your voice carries it with ease. Say it until your shoulders rise with strength. Say it until your habits begin to match your words, for the world will not believe it until you do. But once you do, there is no force that can deny you. You are not what others think you are. You are not your past failures. You are not your doubts. You are not your setbacks. You are a being of thought, faith, and will. You are capable of transforming your world by transforming your identity, and you do so not by waiting, but by deciding, by repeating, by acting every hour, every day. The voice you now use must be firm. The steps you now take must be certain. The choices you now make must be final. For the law does not respond to wishful people. It responds to those who walk in belief. If you would be followed, lead. If you would receive, give. If you would become, declare it and move. There is no future reward without present identity. There is no crown without bearing the weight first in silence. But once you do, the shift begins. You will speak and others will listen. You will act and results will follow. You will command and life will respond. Not because it is owed to you, but because you earned it in thought, word, and action. My friends, we have journeyed together through the deepest secrets of human achievement. We have uncovered the mental rituals that command reality itself. We have revealed the spiritual laws that govern all success. But knowledge without action is powerless. Wisdom without application is worthless. Andrew Carnegie, my greatest mentor, once told me something that changed the trajectory of my entire life. He said, "Napoleon, the graveyard is the richest place on earth. It is filled with people who had magnificent dreams, brilliant ideas, and powerful intentions, but they took those treasures with them to the grave because they never acted upon them. Do not let this be your story." Today you have learned that acting as if nothing is impossible is not fantasy. It is spiritual law. You have discovered that your subconscious mind obeys whatever you impress upon it through repetition and emotion. You have seen how the greatest achievers in history, Ford, Edison, Carnegie, Lincoln, all mastered the art of believing before receiving, of acting before achieving. The power to transform your life is not coming someday. It is here now, in this moment, waiting for your decision. But I must warn you, this knowledge has a short shelf life unless you act upon it immediately. Within 24 hours, if you do not take concrete action on what you have learned, doubt will begin to creep back in. Fear will whisper that it won't work for you. Mediocrity will call you back to your old patterns. So here is what you must do right now, before you close this video, before you move on to the next distraction. First, write your definite chief aim in the present tense, as if it is already accomplished. Not "I will become," but "I am." Not "I hope to have," but "I now possess." Write it with emotion, with conviction, with absolute certainty. Second, read that statement aloud twice today, once now and once before you sleep tonight. Read it with feeling. Read it with vision. Read it until you believe every word. This is not just reading. This is programming your subconscious for transformation. Third, take one immediate action, no matter how small, that aligns with the identity of the person who has already achieved your aim. Walk differently, speak differently, dress differently. Act as if you are already living in the reality you desire, but you must not walk this path alone. Success is not a solitary journey. It requires a mastermind alliance of like-minded individuals who share your commitment to growth. That is why I invite you to subscribe to Napoleon Hill Mastermind Journeys right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this channel is your gateway to a community of believers, achievers, and action takers who refuse to accept mediocrity. Every week, I share the profound principles that I discovered through my decades of research with the most successful people in America. You will learn the secrets that 99% of people never discover. You will join a mastermind of individuals who think differently, act boldly, and achieve remarkably. But subscription is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you engage, when you participate, when you become part of this community of growth. So here is my challenge to you, and I want you to respond in the comments below. What is the one limiting belief that has been holding you back from fully stepping into your power, and what specific action will you take in the next 24 hours to act as if that limitation no longer exists? Do not give me a vague answer like "I'll try harder" or "I'll think positively." I want you to be specific. I want you to be definite. I want you to declare exactly what you will do and when you will do it. For example, the belief that I'm not qualified enough has kept me from pursuing my business idea, and in the next 24 hours, I will research 3 potential customers and schedule calls with them, acting as if I'm already a successful entrepreneur. Write your answer in the comments. Share your commitment with this community. Let your declaration be witnessed by others who understand the power of belief in action, and if this message has stirred something deep within you, if you recognize the truth in these principles, then share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with the person who has been playing small, who has been waiting for permission, who has been letting fear make their decisions. For when you share wisdom, you multiply it. When you lift others, you rise yourself. The Mastermind principle works not just in business, but in service to humanity. But here comes the moment of truth, my friends. You now stand at the crossroads that separates the dreamers from the achievers, the wishers from the builders, the followers from the leaders. You can close this video and return to your old patterns, your old limitations, your old excuses. You can let this knowledge become just another interesting idea that you heard once but never applied. Or you can make the decision that changes everything. You can choose to act as if nothing is impossible because you now know that nothing is impossible to the mind that believes. You can choose to program your subconscious with commands of power, purpose, and triumph. You can choose to walk in faith rather than fear. The choice is yours, but choose now. Choose definitively. Choose without retreat. For as I have taught for decades, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief without action is mere daydreaming. Action without belief is wasted energy. Belief fused with action is irresistible power. You have that power within you right now. You have always had it. You were born with it. You were designed for greatness, created for achievement, destined for significance. The only question that remains is, will you claim it? Subscribe to Napoleon Hill Mastermind Journeys. Ring that notification bell. Write your commitment in the comments. Take your first action within 24 hours and step into the version of yourself that you were always meant to become. The world is waiting for what you have to offer, but it will not wait forever. It responds only to those who act with conviction, who move with purpose, who believe with their entire being. Make today the day you stop acting as if you are ordinary and start acting as if you are extraordinary. Because you are. You always have been. Now it is time to prove it. The mental ritual that commands reality is now yours. Use it, master it, and watch as the impossible becomes inevitable. This is Napoleon Hill, and this is your mastermind journey to greatness. Now go forth and claim your destiny.